Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Chapter 34, Saba. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لِي سَبَإٍ فِي مَسْكَانِهِمْ آيَةٌ. Verily for Saba, there was a sign in their dwellings. So who were the people of Saba, also known as Sheba, and who was their queen? The Queen of Sheebah, her name was Bilquis. She was the heir to the throne and she ruled over Saba or Sheba, which was a place in current-day Yemen. She lived during the time of Sulaiman alayhi salam. Sulaiman alayhi salam, the great prophet, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given a vast kingdom, and he ruled from Jerusalem. And among his dominion, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him control over the animals, the birds, as well as the jinns. So every day he would have this vast army in front of him and he would inspect them. And on one day, he found that the hudhud, or the hoopoe bird, was missing. So Sulaiman alayhi salam, he said, "Verily, I don't see the hoopoe bird. Where is it? Verily, I will punish it. I may even slaughter it unless it comes with a valid excuse." So the hoopoe bird came after a short while and said to Sulaiman, "O Sulaiman, verily I bring you news that you have not heard before. I've come from the land of Sheba, where they have a woman who is ruling over them. Also, they have a vast abundance of everything. And thirdly, they have this Arshan Azim, a magnificent throne. But I saw that they were prostrating, making sujood to the sun rather than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." So Sulaiman alayhi salam, he wrote a letter to the Queen of Sheebah. So when she received this letter, she called her ministers and advisors and said, "Verily a gracious letter has come to me. Innahu min Sulaiman wa innahu bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim." Said, "Verily has come from Sulaiman alayhi salam, and it begins in the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful." And the letter says that verily we should not be arrogant and we should go to him in submission, meaning in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that we should combine our kingdoms. So she said, "O ministers, O advisors, advise me, as I never make a decision unless in your presence." So they said, "We are people of strength. We have a vast army, and if you command us, then we will fight." But the queen, she said, "Verily when kings enter a city, they ruin it. They cause fasad, and they make the most noble, and they make them abased to be the lowest." So she said, "Verily instead, I'm going to send a gift to Sulaiman alayhi salam." So she sent a messenger. When Sulaiman alayhi salam received the gift, he thought it was wealth and riches. He said, "You bring me wealth when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me more?" He said, "Verily, nay, you rejoice in your wealth, but take this message back to your people, to the people of Sheba." He said, "Verily, I come with a vast army which you cannot resist, and I will throw out from the land all that are arrogant. I'll make them humble and I'll throw them out of the land." So when the Queen of Sheba, she heard this, she realized there was no other option for her except to go to Sulaiman alayhi salam and to go and submit to him in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So she set off with her envoys, but the news had reached Sulaiman alayhi salam that they were coming. So he turned to his vast army, and he turned to the jinns this time, and he said, "Who among you will be able to bring me her arsh, this Arshan Azim, this magnificent throne, before she arrives?" So one of them said, "I will bring it before you rise from your chair." Another one said, "Verily I can bring it before you blink your eye." And he brought the throne. When Sulaiman alayhi salam, he saw this, he said, "Hada min fadli Rabbi." This is from the bounty of my Lord to test me, to see if I'm grateful or ungrateful to him. And verily the one who is grateful, he's the only one that benefits, because Allah is rich. And the one who is ungrateful, then Allah is Ghani'un Kareemun. He is self-sufficient, he does not need anything, and he is generous. So he then told the jinns, change things around, because the arsh was made of gold and precious stones. So he said, change it so that she does not recognize it. So when she arrived, the first thing that Sulaiman said to her is, "Look to this throne, do you recognize it?" she said, "Verily, it looks similar." The reason she said that, because they changed it, and also for her, she could not comprehend that the throne could come to her before her journey to Sulaiman alayhi salam. Then he said, "Why don't you walk around the palace?" So she walked around the palace until she came to a point where she thought there was water. So she lifted her clothes and revealed her legs. And then she realized it was glass. So Sulaiman alayhi salam said, "Verily, this palace is made of crystal." So she said, "Rabbi inni dhalamtu nafsi." "Oh my Lord, I have wronged myself. Wa aslamtu ma'a Sulaiman lillahi rabbil alameen." And I submit with Sulaiman to the Lord of the world. Subhanallah. So she became a believer. And he said that she married Sulaiman alayhi salam and then returned to Yemen, where she ruled over her people. So what are the lessons, my dear brothers and sisters, from the story of the Queen of Sheebah, Bilquis? Firstly, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He sends prophets, He gave some of them the choice to be a simple servant and others to be kings. So Sulaiman alayhi salam was a king, and as was his father Dawud alayhi salam. In fact, our own Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given this option, and he chose just to be a humble servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number two, that shirk, which is to ascribe partners to Allah Azza wa Jal, is amongst the greatest of oppression. And that hence why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends messengers and prophets to bring the truth. Number three, Allah mentions a form of leadership here which is commendable in the actions of the Queen of Sheebah when she consulted her advisors, and thus she averted a disaster. Number four, we are taught to be grateful for all of the bounties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us. That if Allah gives us, we should show what is known as shukr. And number five, the doors of tawbah, repentance, are always open for people. Okay, always open. Hence we find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the doors of tawbah for the people of Sheba, and especially here the great example of the Queen of Sheba. May Allah grant us understanding. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.